and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number 2, we will call to the meeting to order, February 2nd, 2023, Village Board meeting. Roll call shows all Village Board members, department heads, and our attorney are present. 4, agenda changes. There are none. 5, consent agenda. A, January 19th, 2023, regular board meeting minutes. And B, presentation of accounts and other claims against the village. If there are no questions, I would need a motion to accept.
So move.
I'll second.
Roll call, Peter?
Aye.
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 Motion carried. 6, pre-registered citizens to be heard, and when you speak, you have a limit of 5 minutes.
We have Mark Schweitz, 202 East Main.
Hello, thank you for doing the job that you all do. I'm just here to see what you're gonna do with the parking in front of the old police station, town hall. I understand that it's become a no parking zone, and the business that's in there needs some sort of parking, and I wondered if you were gonna provide that or what. Thank you.
Thank you.
Grace Abbott, 213 West Main.
Hello, everyone. My name is Grace Abbott. I have co-owned and operated a coffee shop on Main Street in Hortonville for 6 years. My question for the village board, the village president, the administrator, like library director, anyone who are in these leadership roles, what is your intent surrounding the health of this community? Do we want a safe and vibrant downtown area that's accessible by residents and visitors from other towns? Do we want a diverse mixture of businesses to patronize and build relationships with? Do we want a community that cherishes its quaint history, old buildings, and natural features that have always been here? These are all things that I've gathered from our time spent together up until tonight. These are things that it seems like we share these ideals between us, or these visions that we have. Furthermore, the handling of this prohibited parking area completely blindsided residents and multiple small businesses. How does this align with previously said visions that embody and cultivate the community that we all live in or visit with each other? Your lack of procedure in this process of conceiving and passing this ordinance are negligent and based on undocumented complaints. The singular event that we are all now part of, it raises concerns for how future matters could be handled for our downtown reconstruction with the bypass that is happening as we speak. The process has not been reassuring to me as a community member. I live here, I'm a regular person, and a small business owner. The village is approaching a pivotal stage where setting each other up for success is imperative, since the effects of the bypass are yet to be experienced by our downtown small businesses. Moving forward, we would love to be part of a transparent communication process. A personal thing that I want to share with you all is I've been a type 1 diabetic since I was a baby. Being a type 1 diabetic means you have to make about 180 additional decisions every single day regarding what you're going to eat, how much insulin you're going to take, what's your blood sugar at. It never ends, and that's okay. The reason I'm sharing it with you is that all of you probably have your own 180 decisions that you're making every single day, whether they're for your family, where you're going to work, how you're gonna make ends meet, what's happening in your community, what are we gonna do with this bypass? So just with this ordinance being passed with such little attention to detail, it makes so many more decisions to navigate for all of us. And look who's all here. I talked to all of these folks, and it wasn't exciting to talk about. So I want to share that with you. In short, please reverse the ordinance and include us in any resolutions that are being planned. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And then we have Chris Fleming, 238 Lakeview.
I am just here as a citizen, a member of Hortonville, but I truly appreciate the businesses that Claire and Grace have brought to the village, something that's enhancing our village, and I'm just wanting to support reversing the proposal or reversing the parking situation, so it is easier access for people coming in. I know that I have told people outside of the community about this neat little coffee shop and this little shop that you can go in for vintage, and they've done so many just interesting things, and I really want that to be part of our village and what we want to be known for, and just to have that accessibility easier for people coming in. I hope that these are businesses that draw people, and so I just want to support reinstating the parking in front of the business and the old police station. Thank you.
And we have Claire Abbott, 326 Norfolk.
Hi there. So I'm following up on the restricted parking as well. This was discussed last week at the public safety meeting, and it's my hope that the committee gathered a better understanding of the area from people that attended, not only our customers, but also community members, and then our experience there as business owners and property owners. So since this has went into effect, we have been talking to a lot of people about it in the community to try to gain a little more insight on the topic. And it was very clear where the safety and parking concerns were throughout the village, and this specific area on South Nash Street was definitively not one of those areas. It might be kind of unconventional, but it has also proven itself to be safe, as it's been used this way for years without problems by the village itself also. So, yes, in the future, I would hope that the kinds of anonymous complaints that this was built on can be documented in some kind of formal way, especially when those complaints are going to be used to make impactful changes in the community. I think if there's real, truly public safety concerns, I would think that that would be documented in some way with the police department. We have yet to see any kind of piece of paper or anything to justify this throughout the entire process. So again, this parking is vital to our businesses. It's proven to be safe, and it appropriately accommodates all the activities on South Nash Street. So thank you for taking the time to listen to us.
Thank you.
That's all.
Okay. We will go to 7, committee reports. A, Public Facilities Committee.
We had a meeting, we discussed 2 issues primarily. One was the installation in the Opera House, and the other, which ended up having a rather large discussion, was how were we going to move forward with Alonzo Park and develop that.
Okay. Thank you, Peter. B, Library Board. Pat?
We had a meeting this past week ago Tuesday. We discussed staff development options and possible closure dates. One of the things we wanted to emphasize this year in the 2023 budget was to encourage staff development from, for Ally and the whole staff. So that was a topic of our discussion at the meeting. We determined the process to allow for work from home when
There's an unplanned closure due to weather or some emergency, and we reviewed the inclement weather policy. Made some 2022 budget line adjustments, and Friends of the Hortonville Library announced they are having a Norwex fundraiser on February 15th.
Thank you, Pat. C, Public Safety Committee. Jim?
So, we had a meeting and we discussed the camera systems here at the community center. From that, we determined that we would like to see an additional quote for the full system, which Chris is going to work on. I don't know if we've got to that yet. I was going to go out and see about sourcing cameras outside of one of the quotes. They were somewhat less expensive, but still pricey enough that we need a second quote to compare. So we had one quote for a full replacement, one quote for a partial replacement. So we need to get a second quote for a full replacement to see if that works. The other item up for discussion was the parking on the bridge. And the result of that discussion was that it is an agenda item to discuss this evening.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, we will go to 8, unfinished business from previous meetings. There is none. 9, new business. A, discussion and possible action on the Alonzo Park Master Plan proposal.
Sorry, we got a technical error here. Basically, after meeting with the Parks Committee and looking at the options we had, we condensed down the 3 different versions that we initially had from, that we put out for survey for people. We had MSA combine some of the features we liked between them, and then they came back and kind of gave us the updated version plus a quote and kind of phased it in different phases as a potential option. So this is the proposed design currently, and basically the way that staff is looking at this is an outline basically of what we would like to see in the future. The whole goal of this is to also give us a outline so we don't end up putting something, if we get a donation, towards something in the spot that that we're gonna have to move it later at a later date. So the idea is to come up with a master plan, so then if we have a little bit of money here, we can probably do a portion of this in a smaller phase and take out a little bit of it at a time. So even though this is a hefty price, if you look at the total price of the cost of the design, which I think is around a total of about $10 million, the idea is that it's not going to be all done within the next even 10 years. This is going to be beneficial for us when we're looking at trying to get grants for different things that we can get grants for, which will also help determine the priority. So if we apply for a grant and then we get a matching grant from the state to pay for half of the price of a wetlands boardwalk, then that's going to direct us that we're going to go towards that boardwalk because we got that matching grant. So that's kind of the main goal of this. So even though this would be the proposed design, it might be a long time before you see it like this.
So what are you looking for tonight on this?
Just a board approval of the design for the master plan.
Does anyone have any questions for Nathan?
I did want to point one thing out though. That entry to the, what I will call the east parking lot, is that aligned with the street?
In the photo, it really isn't. It's supposed to be.
That's what I thought.
That was told to them and they just kind of
Overlooked it?
it's supposed to match up with the street, so it's a
Yeah,
straight entry rather than having a zigzag to get into the park.
okay.
Any other questions?
So would that just be an adjustment when the time came, like is there room for that to
Yeah.
happen?
Yeah.
Like the stuff between
Yeah, I mean, you're
the
just,
water and you just kind of slide everything over?
it's
to
more to the right more. So, I mean, you're really just
Yeah.
gonna remove probably that fake tree that's not there, and just widen that out a little more.
Okay.
So, that portion of the project, depending on a few financial things, may be done during the 2026 bypass reconstruction, or Main Street reconstruction, I should say.
The idea also was to, for nonprofits to work alongside the village to get grants that aren't available to municipalities, so.
Along with potential donations from businesses in different sections
Right.
as well.
So we may end up with what Nathan and I call naming rights to a pavilion or something else that maybe a business would sponsor. So there are a number of opportunities to raise these funds.
Did the next slide show the phases, Nathan? I don't know
Yeah.
if that's worth looking at too.
It kind of is. I think the issue, when you're talking phases, is we have somewhat of our priorities on it.
Okay.
And some of it's being driven by the DNR with the whole reconstruction of the well house. It's kind of hard to see there.
We talked about even phase one not even being just one, it may be
Right.
1A, 1B, 1C,
Right,
right?
so I think it's really gonna depend on what we actually have money for and, I think our priority is definitely that center area, that has a mixture of a pavilion and, the well house reconstruction, and then, splash pad and playground, but that's just current thoughts on it. It definitely can switch if there ends up being a lot of grants available for different areas here, so, yeah. Phase one, according to this, phase one is basically that center area. And then phase two is going to be the parking and performance area, this little green outline here. Phase three is the blue outline, which is basically the Blackwater Lake side. And then phase four is the boardwalk areas with a few fishing piers and, open air shelters.
Now, I'm currently working with MSA right now and developing some language for a potential RFP for the engineering of that phase one chunk with the well house, splash pad and park.
I know we talked about too, with the splash pad, I know, the expense of the recirculating water is pretty high, but talking about asking for a bid both ways to see if that would be obviously more environmentally friendly, but cost-wise, in the long run, would
Yeah,
that,
how long would it take to?
with the water bills?
Kind of cost benefit analysis.
Does the harvester go in from this park, or does it go in from the bulkhead?
It actually goes in currently from like the edge of this second bridge here on the
Okay.
right-hand side.
Would that still be accessible with the current design there,
I mean, it would have to be.
or? Okay.
It might not look like it in there, and it's not necessarily designated in that photo, but yeah, I mean, unless there's another area. But I believe that is the reason they chose that area is because of the depth there for putting it in, where it's a little shallower over here on the south side of the park, so. But yeah, no matter what, we gotta keep that.
Yeah, just didn't see a spot for it. Let's see-
Yeah,
let's see.
yeah, it's not listed on there, but
Okay. That's one question I have.
Might just determine that they have to shift that pavilion a little bit in order to ensure that they can get over there.
So do you want a motion or a head nod?
a motion.
this motion just need to say the Alonzo Park Master Plan proposal, I mean, exactly how it's written here?
Just the Alonzo Park Master Plan.
To accept it,
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the Alonzo Park Master Plan.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. B, discussion and possible action on the design for Main Street Bridge.
So the Main Street Bridge is really just a giant culvert for the most part, right next to Miller Park, kind of between, a little further, I think it's right before Crest Street, after Cherry. It's kind of hard to, I could pull it up on the GIS if you would like. But basically, there's a few different designs that the county wants us to get approved if we would like them. Otherwise, they will just do a replacement as is. I didn't have the prices in the handout, so I did do a printout of that, and that should have been at your seat. It's about, so if you do a combination like concrete and railing, is going to be an estimation of about $33,000. If you add in a form liner, it's going to be an extra approximately $6,500, and then concrete staining is an approximately another $2,000. So it looks like you have about 7 different options to look at. Yeah.
So the form liner is more just aesthetics, right?
I think the whole thing is
Yeah.
pretty much aesthetics. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm kind of a fan of the combination railing because it's a little more safe if you're biking next to it or going by it. It's just, rather than what we have there currently, which is, I believe, just a rail.
It's just
Yeah.
metal.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
So
just,
you want us to pick one of these tonight?
Yep.
Okay.
What's that?
everyone I liked was all 3 added,
Yeah.
the expensive one.
Yeah, without having the cost, I'll tell you, the one I looked at that looked like the best fit for there, was that C6.
Yep, that's the one I picked out first.
Because there's no, so if you looked at like, C3 and C2, I mean, they're similar, but, there's no way to, there's no access around on the sides of that bridge anyway. And the other, so is this supposed to be mirrored on both sides, or?
Yeah.
Okay, because the other side does, the side that, goes towards,
The north,
Where the
yeah,
bait shop used to be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Where Fannon's used to be. Yeah, there's never any access or anything. That's all, I mean, that's all.
well, it's not visual either.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
just
not
the park side.
Hmm?
It's not currently.
No, I know, but
I mean,
does it need to be?
it's up to you guys. I mean, the bridge is probably going to be there another 50 years after you design it.
Is there a sidewalk on that side?
Yes.
Yeah.
The other side of the street is currently, it's a lush site, so there's some R&R that needs to be done to it.
Hmm.
I don't know if that is gonna be part of the Main Street reconstruction. It's been talked about at times, from the state side, but if that develops into a home or a potential business, then we might have that to think about, but I don't really have a preference either way, so.
So C4, is that without the form liner, right? What is a form liner? It's that,
Yeah,
that
what is it?
fake
What is
rock,
a form
that fake,
What creates the look?
So where the rocks are on the
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, where it looks like it's made out of rock.
Well, C6 is a fieldstone.
the fake
Uh, That seems to be more,
Yeah,
the stamp.
yeah.
I worry about maintenance on that,
On what?
the form liner. Like, how many years does that last? Like, we're talking 50 years on a bridge.
Right.
So the form liner, let's say some of these bricks or these, because they're manufactured stone, and they start, because of the traffic and rumbling and vibration and everything else, I worry about maintenance on it. I mean, I kind of like just to avoid a form liner just for that reason, really. But I do like the combination.
You know, Julie, you see that applied to a lot of bridges around the state?
Stamping, not.
Yeah, well, I think you and I will both be gone before it needs any repair.
Really? I don't know, I know what, like the stamping that I've seen like on 41, like up by Ashwaubenon, that sort of area. This is different. This is, I don't know.
Why is this different?
It's not stamped. It's
Not applied, is it?
I believe it is.
The rock applied?
The looks of it, yeah.
I don't know if it's.
I don't know.
I think it's a stamp.
Yeah.
With color, with a color stamp.
I don't know. Like, we use some of it on the front of our house, and I was surprised that it was only so thick, you know. That's my fear, is that it's eventually gonna be a maintenance issue. So the C5 has like streetlights and stuff. Is streetlights and stuff that sort of thing we're putting on that bridge?
It's
Is
been
it
talked
long
about
enough?
potentially to have one on each corner.
Okay.
Because it's kind of leading you out of the downtown area. We're still kind of in the discussion phase on where we want to have potentially that decorative lighting go to. And that's probably something that'll still be debated after this is decided at this point.
Okay. But does it change the design of, that we pick?
Not necessarily. I think if you're gonna, because if you're gonna do a bridge, you're gonna probably have it on the edges, on the corners. So I don't think it's necessarily gonna
Doesn't the
be-
Mill Street Bridge have lights on each corner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Nash Street
so it
though
would be the
has
same.
some throughout the bridge though.
Non-decorative, I don't believe.
They hang Christmas decorations on it, don't they?
Right, but it's not like a decorative lighting like the Mill Street Bridge is no
Okay.
decorative
More
lighting.
Yeah.
that old,
Yeah.
stuff.
So, but yeah, those are, I mean, there's still gonna be a light on the bridge, whether it's gonna be decorative or not is
Okay.
kind of the only thing that's still kind of under discussion.
Just wondered if that affected our design choice.
These examples are a little confusing the way they lay it out too. Like you could have a C6 that's just the railing type with no form liner like shown on the C4 example. They're just trying to give you examples of each different type of the combination railing.
Okay.
So you wouldn't necessarily have to use the C6 with the rock fieldstone form liner if you didn't want to.
Is it tied together? I mean, it's gonna be the same on both sides.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, cause there's nothing on the other side.
I know, I think it'll probably look weird if it's not, is
Yeah.
my guess, is you'll easily be able to tell, but when going down the street, that
Well, I mean, the inside of them looks different than the outside though. Even if you look at like the
Yeah, the
C6
stone's not
picture,
gonna be on
the
the
stone on
inside.
the other side is different, so.
Mhm.
The only way you see that is if you're off of the bridge looking back at it. That's why I was asking if it's,
The back side of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Inside of the street versus
Yeah, right.
outside.
I mean, from the bridge, from the park perspective, I think it's probably worthwhile to add the decorative, the multicolored stain to it with the C6. And I don't think it's really worthwhile on the north side of the road, on the exterior north side of the road, if it's an option at all, if there's a difference in cost, because it's private property over there anyway. So the only people that are gonna see it are the people who
Just make sure the
navigate down to that creek, and that water is only like this deep once you get over there, unless you catch a certain time of the year, but, cause the creek widens at that bridge and it gets even narrow, it gets even shallower. So, there isn't really anybody down there, you can see all the way you can see right to the bottom, there's nothing there. And then the visibility from the other side is only gonna be private property, so if there's a way to do a cost savings without doing the decorative on the other
I
side,
mean,
it would be an option.
you're realistically, the main portion of your expense is coming from the combination railing.
Yeah.
Your form liner, your concrete staining,
Okay.
and most of that totals about 8,500.
Okay.
So if you, I mean, even if you cut that in half, you're saving $4,000 and you're not gonna have a symmetrical
Okay.
looking bridge. I just, in the long run, it just seems a little odd, in my opinion, but it's up to you guys.
50 years from now, when Peter and I are both dead, People are gonna say, who the heck picked that?
Yeah,
You know?
why is it different on this side?
We'll name that bridge after you guys, so
Yeah.
everyone will remember exactly.
But I think
Well,
Jim's
we could
older
name one on
maybe,
each
and maybe
side.
he'd be dead before me, I don't know.
No.
Maybe we could, yeah, but I would rather keep it symmetrical, whatever we do, but, yeah.
So if I am reading this right, the form liner, 6,500, and the concrete staining, that applies to both sides then? Am I correct?
Yeah.
That's not per side.
No.
So
Yeah,
if
that's
you eliminate and don't do anything on the north side, you're not saving a lot of money.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
The difference here is whether or not you have
Yeah.
metal railing and mixed with the concrete or just
42
concrete.
42.50.
Just concrete pillars. Which I, aesthetically, I like the mix, but still a lot for a bridge.
It adds a little safety too, I would agree with
Do
you.
you want a motion on this?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion to accept the image of C6 moving forward to provide the combination of railing, form liner, and concrete staining for both sides.
I'll second.
Roll call. Peter?
Aye.
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 Hi.
Motion carried. C, discussion and possible action on updated cost share agreement, Main Street reconstruction.
That updated agreement is, basically, the only thing that's updated on there is the, water and sewer installation costs. And that's the extra about 180,000. So if you look at the engineering for the local utility design, that's why we're paying for it all, because it all has to do with water and sewer utility. It's after the McMahon's proposal, who's the engineer on the project. So,
So all that changed was the 180?
yep. And then it's the proposal agreement with, McMahon as well, so. If you wanted to look through the scope of the services and whatnot,
So the 180 was 0 on the previous?
yep,
And that was
Nothing else
just, that was
changed.
just 0 because we didn't know
correct.
what the cost of the
Right,
engineering was
until
going
the
to be.
bid happened, and then once the bid happened, we had their estimated cost on the, and granted, it's an estimation, so depending on how much they actually have to do, it may.
So how badly does that, I mean, where are we budgeted wise for all, like,
Well, for the utility side, I mean, nothing yet. The utility's gonna have to take up, basically, once we get the estimated cost, the utility's gonna have to take out a bond, possibly to potentially pay for the local utility upgrade. That bond could potentially be mixed in with other large purchases that are on the utility side in the next few years, and take that out over a 20 or 30-year period. So, for now, the utility has funds for it, for the 180, but not necessarily budgeted in their updated this year's budget. But they do have a bunch of reserve for this type of large
I
project.
just don't wanna see a major hit happen and we're like, oh,
Right.
here we are,
So,
quoting
so,
180.
yeah, so these are all expenses that we expected, we just didn't know what they were gonna be during the original agreement, right? Because we always thought there was gonna be some, because we're doing some of the work.
There's about,
Some of it's because of us.
right, so a good portion of the 410 in total, the village side has all of it budgeted for in their CIP. The issue was with the utility, there was no way to possibly imagine what the cost was gonna be for the engineering, at least on my history here, so there was nothing I could do to try to figure it out. But the utility has enough in its savings to potentially pay for fully the engineering, but my guess is we're gonna probably have to we'll probably take out that 180 in a bond in a future date.
what's gonna be the determining factor in deciding that?
The bond?
Yeah.
Well, the amount is gonna be determined on what after the engineering's done, we'll have an estimated cost of the full reconstruction. At that point, then we're gonna look at how much it's gonna cost us, how much we have left over at the end of each year, which is about 150,000 or so in profit that is gonna be able to then work on our debt. And then we'll probably end up having to contract with the Ellers to kind of come up with a larger financial plan for us for this type of expense. Because you're gonna wanna have someone professional come in and do it.
Okay. I was just thinking about the presentation, the one that we had where the guy came in and explained why and it was with water stuff, I mean,
Right.
back when he was doing it, he
So,
was explaining why we
the-
wanna take out bonds for
Right.
stuff that we could potentially just pay for sometimes.
Right.
And that was to make, to refresh, that was to distribute the cost for an investment that was going to be utilized by the citizens over an extended period of time, to distribute that cost over these citizens that were going to be utilizing the investment versus having the people who had already paid into taxes, and we hadn't necessarily used or set that money aside for something, and have them pay for it in whole, and then have the next generation who's going to use it actually pay nothing for it, for those improvements. So that was the reason for my question about whether or not we're going to, how to determine whether or not you're gonna take a bond for it.
I would say we're gonna take it, because
Okay.
anything over, typically they say anything over around $1 million or more, you're gonna take a bond out for. My guess is the full reconstruction for the water and sewer side will probably be a little above that. And then plus we can always tie in if we wanted to the well house reconstruction, which has to get done around that time as well. And
So it's not an if, it's how much.
right, that's really the question, is how much we're gonna end up having to take on.
Okay, so we just need a motion to accept the.
Contract as.
Wait, can I ask one question?
Absolutely.
On his proposal here, he's got wetland delineation 4,500. Where are the wetlands? What are you talking about?
Isn't it, it's by Greendale,
It could be, I mean, it
by the
could,
flower shop?
yeah, I mean, it's anywhere where there's potential wetlands around Main Street, I mean,
Yeah.
it's.
So that's Greendale out there?
Out in, yeah,
Okay.
that
All right.
area.
Alonzo area.
Okay,
Alonzo has it, and,
Mhm.
Even parts of Miller, right?
and just because they have that
Yeah.
in there,
Yeah.
they might not know that we have the delineation around Alonzo.
Right.
Then they might not need to pay for that.
Yeah,
So-
because we've had that.
Right, but they don't know that, so.
Okay.
And then we also have some of the, televising of some of the sewers already done, which
Mhm.
was a part of their initial quota. I'm guessing it's probably still in there, but we did a large portion of Main Street televising last year,
Okay.
so.
Okay.
Those could come in lower than, it's an estimate.
I just also wanted to point out one big difference between this final contract and what their original proposal was the additional money that they put in for meetings with the public and public involvement. That's one thing that I really pushed for, because I think it's gonna be really important to keep the public involved and up to date on as this project designs come out and move forward.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve the updated proposal agreement for professional engineering services from McMahon.
I'll second.
Roll call, Peter?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. D, possible discussion and possible action on O-02-23 ordinance amending parking prohibited at all times.
The ordinance that is being proposed right here was based off a recommendation from the business owners that were affected by the initial parking issue that we took away from. Basically what it does is it takes the no parking, and I'll bring up the map and kind of show you where it would allow for no parking and where the parking would be allowed. that ordinance puts it, it's right at that red dotted line is where the no parking would begin, according to that proposed ordinance that is in the packet.
And where does it start on the other side?
Yeah, can you zoom
The no
out?
parking starts at that
Can you
red,
zoom up?
Yeah,
right
can you
dotted
zoom
line.
out? We're kind of zoomed in, I can't really.
Yep, and then
Perspective.
ends at the end of the bridge. So basically, the no parking area is the direct bridge or dam area.
So then what's in here that's highlighted yellow?
That's the changes, it's
Okay.
just showing you the changes that were done.
Okay.
The packet that's in there was put together by the business owners and given to me, and then I added it into the packet.
Okay.
So that's what they're taking out.
Which would allow for how many parking places in front of the business?
I mean, I would have to estimate it. Let's go from there. Well, 4 estimated.
So I appreciated all the information in the packet that was submitted. I really think we need to revisit the ordinance, and I've heard other concerns about the ordinance, for example, Nash Street heading south and then turning off Nash onto Nye with parking on both sides there being a danger. So I don't know if we need to look at more parts of the ordinance, or do we want to piecemeal patching it? I guess I'm concerned that this is going to come up again on the originally passed ordinance.
From what?
For example, that
The changes that we made
the
in the
both,
past, or are you
yeah,
talking
the
about
one
additional?
on the original ordinance that we passed in, when was it, October?
Right, where we made no parking, are you talking by Nye Street where we extended
Yeah,
that?
because I've had a couple people ask me, we're concerned too about parking on both sides of the road on Nye Street, so are you gonna look at that again? So I guess my concern is, I totally agree with, we need to open up parking on South Nash, but are there other parts of the ordinance that we should be looking at
I would kind of,
also?
based on, I'm sure the business owners would rather have you piecemeal it, because otherwise you're gonna probably have to come back to a different meeting and not pass anything tonight. That,
Can we, okay,
I would just take it at a different meeting if you would like to go over some of the areas. I think if you're talking about the area down here, we added no parking to make that better. I guess I feel like what you're saying is you would like to add more or take that back.
I'm concerned that if we only repeal or change one part of the ordinance, that we're going to be also coming back and looking at other parts as other concerns come up. Is there a way to say, we acted too soon? Can we look at the big picture here and look?
My opinion is we address this issue tonight, and we can move forward with the other ones if need be.
If need be?
Because I think we've
Just
identified
mark
a
that.
bunch of other spots that need to be looked at
I
eventually.
mean, we could take months reviewing every ordinance
Yeah.
and every street.
We need to address this one
Yeah.
today.
Right. I think this would be at a different meeting and possibly another public safety meeting to address other areas, because we have been given many areas that are
Right.
issues.
I think
Yeah.
she's just saying
So-
whether we rescind the whole original one.
That's what I'm saying. Do we rescind the whole thing now?
That would allow for
And
them
allow
parking
for
back
time.
on Mill Street Bridge as well, and then full parking on Nash Street Bridge as well, and then increase more parking next to Nye Street all the way down the street, rather than having it be symmetrical like we had.
Thank you for explaining.
No, it's.
What I was trying to say, that's what I meant. I'm wondering if we didn't jump into this all too quickly, and would it be better to look at the whole thing? I agree with you, Jack. I think at least at the bare minimum, we have to deal with this one, but I think there's other things that maybe the whole thing needs to be readdressed.
If you wanna schedule another public safety meeting, I can schedule that to look at other parts of the ordinance, and we can have a discussion about what could potentially be additional changes, but I don't think that that's, I don't think that's within the scope of what we wanna do here tonight. That's a little, there's too much that needs to be looked at with other stuff to make a larger sweeping decision.
But this was the only one that showed as, that you brought, that was a safety concern, was the bridge.
No, the bridge on Mill Street was also
That
brought
was
up.
brought up, okay.
That was, when we had that first meeting, it was about bridges in general, because of the church. There's obviously been a change in
Yeah.
the climate as well about Mill Street because of the church services now. So we talked about that as well because of the parking that's basically going all the way from the corner to
Yeah, okay.
with the church services. So both were brought up at the same time. And I believe at that meeting, we also brought up the parking stalls in front of Stroh's, the parking stalls in front of what was the Loose Wheel, because of not being able to pull out of Mill Street as well.
Okay.
There was more than just those conversations at that meeting.
It's actually, we just haven't scheduled another public safety, but it's actually, we still need to look at, and it was brought up, and but we didn't have the information at the time and didn't have a chance to look at, like the parking in front of Stroh's and Mill Street visibility when you're coming back onto Main Street. So that still needs to be brought up.
I believe Chris actually went out there and had, like, looked at with a police car and you did that, and even Brett with
Yeah.
Stroh's said that parking stall is not a great spot. So I
Yeah.
think there was a joint effort to try to test out those stalls as well. There was a lot of conversation regarding
Yeah, just wasn't.
safety for those.
Yeah, there wasn't enough due diligence before, because it was just brought up at the meeting, and nobody had had a chance to look at, because it wasn't here. So, like, before we had the original meeting, public safety meeting, I went around and looked at all of these property. I looked at a map, and I went around and looked at all of where the no parking was going to go, and had some time to look at everything. But then the Mill Street visibility was brought up, and hadn't had a chance to take a look at that yet. So removing an additional parking spot from Main Street wasn't on the agenda at the time, but we had talked about scheduling another meeting to do that. If you'd like, at that meeting, we can discuss Nye Street or anything else that you would like to have a concern about.
I mean, that's fine. I think we need to, I don't know how we invite public opinion on that, so we don't have to go through this every time, where we have people that don't feel they're informed. So is there something we can do?
Well, I think
With-
part of the issue was because this whole thing was brought at once. So it's a
Yeah.
lot harder for us to say to the whole village, come to the meeting. I mean, that's what the agenda is that we put out, is a notice to the village that come to the meeting. And we didn't know, because we looked at that area of that ordinance, and then we were like, okay, so we're gonna look through it fully, because there was some belief that some of the no parking areas weren't actually listed correctly, and there are parking areas that were listed on there as parking areas. So then we went through
Did we
basically.
take some out too that were no park, like?
I don't believe we did. I think that was the thought that you guys had, that there was some places that were in there that weren't supposed to be.
Because I remember going through this line by
We
line,
went through
every
line by
single
line, so we had
location.
no
We
idea.
We did.
Right,
Um,
who was actually gonna be affected when we were going through it.
I think
And-
that's where the gap is. You know, we have public hearings for other things.
Right.
You know, is there a way we can be,
I think it's easier
better
if you
about
can narrow down which numbers you wanna deal with, and then to invite the people that are in those areas to the meeting to discuss those areas, because otherwise I think
Meeting will be first.
you're gonna be having a large room in here if you start going, if we say, you know, anyone who's tied to any of those
20,
25
yeah.
lines. Because that's pretty much everyone in the downtown, everyone outside the downtown, and a large radius.
would it be a bad thing to involve the downtown business people in general in the parking
Well-
decision? I don't know.
Yeah, not necessarily. I think if you're talking about in downtown alleyway, yes, I think it would be good to involve them. But if you're talking about Mill Street Bridge over here, that's, I mean, I guess you could invite some of them, but does really the bowling alley care about Mill Street Bridge? That's kind of the point, I guess, was why we never really went through that.
Well, and I know with the shortage of parking in downtowns in general,
Right.
you know, I think in a lot of ways, everybody's impacted, you know, the downtown businesses, in
You know,
my opinion. Well, if, you know, you park one place and you have to
Well, right, but-
walk
Yeah.
a ways, so that's.
Your
what-
ordinance also goes up to John Street, goes up to Maple Street, so I mean, if we're talking about those, the downtown businesses probably don't
Yeah.
care. So I think if you want, we can go through, and if there's areas where you believe that you wanna look at, we can add that to the safety meeting, and then we can discuss it, and then I can invite the people that are tied to that area as
I
much
think
as
that would
possible.
be a good way to do it, to, you know, I mean, it just seems to make sense. I want to avoid this in the
Well,
future where we're,
You have more public safety meetings then.
I-
You have an
I know.
initial one to figure out which ones you guys
Yeah.
want to target and that, or to look at more, and then we can go from there and have another one and have a public hearing for it.
but that's what we're supposed to do, right? I know it's,
Right, I'm
I
not-
know it's more meetings. I
No,
know.
I'm fine with that. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that's how I would do it if I
Mhm.
was you guys planning this in the
Mhm.
future.
Are you on the public safety?
Yeah,
We should be looking forward to a great year
I
then.
definitely am, Peter, thank you.
But I think tonight we are here to discuss the bridge on Nash Street, which is on the agenda tonight to decide, make a decision. So I think we can discuss these other ones in future meetings, but this one should be discussed tonight, so we know where we stand. Does anyone have any ideas about the parking on Nash Street and the bridge?
I think no matter what we do with this right now, we need to put a sign for hidden driveway or something like that for that location, because no matter whether there's cars parked there or not, it's a bad intersection. And I don't like, when I leave Otter Creek and we walk home that way, I get really nervous when my 7-year-olds are walking through the little courtyard there and all the parking's coming up from that alley. I want to make sure, I think we need some sort of signage there either way. Hidden driveway, I've seen those on Grandview, I've seen them, you know, you're not going to get everybody to honk, you're not going to get everybody to, half the time that mirror is fogged up or the sun's shining in the wrong way and you can't see anything out of that little mirror. So I would like to see something there at a minimum. I mean, I know it's sort of, it's part of this, but it's separate, but I don't think it's, I think we need some sort of signage there for hidden driveway or something,
For the traffic point.
for the traffic.
Mm.
Going north.
So, I think that, so, not to veer too far off, but I think that, we're potentially looking at making the alleyway a one-way as one of the options. I think that if we do that, it lessens some of our restrictions, as to how we have to look at this. So I don't think this is, even tonight, I don't think this is a permanent, I mean, this might be a
Stopgap.
middle term stopgap, but I don't think it's a completely permanent, because if we can make that one way, it does alleviate some concerns. So, I wanted to do
What alley?
some,
One way?
the one behind, Otter Creek and next to their,
Oh,
the business there.
not, you can't get through right now, but it,
No, you can't go through right now.
There's
But
a lot
at-
of- yeah,
But at our ad hoc
there's a lot of
meeting,
ifs there.
That's a
and
lot
at the
of
ad hoc
result.
meeting, one of the ideas that we discussed was making that one way, so that way you never have to come back out onto Nash Street. Now, if you do that, you remove any sort of visibility constraints that you have coming back out, because there's nothing coming back out then. Then it just goes in there and comes back out on Mill Street, where the visibility is much better.
yes, it is.
Okay, I mean, coming out of that alleyway,
Great.
going back to Main Street is different, but, okay, so I wanted to do some due diligence on this, so I went and, parked, you know, even though it's no parking, I went and parked there, to look and see what kind of visibility constraints there were. I parked 2 vehicles right, about 8 feet away from the alleyway. And unfortunately, you really can't see the traffic when you're coming up from the alleyway. I took some pictures, and there was a car behind the vehicles that were parked there, and you can't see them. So you're coming out of the alleyway, and Nash is here, so you got, if you park a couple of vehicles right here. And granted, I have a mid, you know, not a big truck. I don't have like a F-350, but I have a normal size truck. So it does block visibility quite a bit more than a car does. But with me parked there, and another vehicle parked in front of it, so like from parking right to the bridge to, legally you can get 4 feet from the alleyway, but that's pretty tight, especially with that uphill slope that we're coming out from back there. So we parked about 8 feet away, measured it, and coming up, I stood there and took a picture, and you really can't see. There's a car behind my truck, and you can't even see it. And that's on the other lane. That's in the lane that was coming back this way, right? So, so it was in the oncoming lane, and you can't even see the vehicles there. It just doesn't, you can't even see it at all. So I do still have concerns about the visibility, but it, you know, it has been there. My preference would be to not have, you know, a permanent parking there. I think that that, you know, we can look at accommodations for the business owner, but I don't really, the permanent parking spots are not, if somebody parks there, if I park my truck there and I just leave it there, you know, everybody for the entire day that comes out is not going to be able to see hardly anything. I also when I was parked there, I just sat there and watched cars, and it was late at night. It was like 9 o'clock at night, so it's not a lot of traffic. But I sat there and watched cars, and every car that went by was over the yellow line. Every car that went by in the same lane went over the yellow line. Some went all the way over into the other lane and only had their tire. Now, granted, that's driver behavior, and if there's a car coming the other way, obviously they're going to try to stay really tight. So I pulled 2 cars together and drove across the bridge at about 10 miles an hour. And they were close enough that I could reach out and touch the mirror on the other vehicle, right, from my truck. And the other vehicle was over the yellow line almost the entirety of the bridge. It narrows as you go across the bridge. It gets about a foot narrower as you get closer to the curve. And then the curve tends to push traffic closer. It tends to narrow because you're making that curve right there. So even if it doesn't physically narrow, it gives you the impression that it's narrowing and forces you to cut over to the right to come in there. So my personal, my opinion with this is, you know, I really don't see anything that mitigates the safety concerns with parking on the bridge itself. So I would be, I'm opposed to parking on the bridge. There might be a solution that we can come up with for the space that's not on the bridge, but there is still a concern with visibility coming out of that alleyway.
So you're talking about from the alley, the corner of their building to the other corner of the building, the south end?
Correct.
Just
where the bridge
allow
starts, yeah.
some type of parking there, or no parking? Is that what your recommendation is?
Well, from the edge of their building was where the
Which
bridge
edge?
starts.
South or
So
north?
that would be the south edge of their
Okay.
building, where the bridge starts.
Right.
From
That point going across the bridge, no parking?
No, that would be my,
What about in front of their building?
I'm open to a solution.
I don't think they are asking for parking. Their garage is 24 feet wide
That's two vehicles.
before the alley.
Right.
So they don't intend to park there, from what I understand. So that's 24 feet that is still, there's visibility there. So you would start parking from the edge of the garage to the rest of the building.
What was that distance, Nathan?
Pardon me?
They just measured?
No, from the edge of the building to the bridge.
Which edge?
No, the bridge
Which edge?
starts right at
Bridge-
the edge.
If she's talking, they're not gonna park in front of the building, what's that dimension? Are you gonna get 2 stalls, or you're gonna, Because you're not gonna get 3 or 4.
So,
The bridge
The
starts right
bridge
at the edge
starts
of
at
the
the
building.
building.
The bridge start, it's just not over the water yet, but the
Yeah.
bridge starts at the building.
The
I mean,
railing
it's
starts,
like
basically-
this.
the railing
well,
starts
you
right
got
there.
This much space.
4
So-
feet from the alley to the bridge, which would be the edge of their building. So you have to stay 4 feet from the alley, because that's the law.
Okay,
And then you would go 2 parking spaces would
South.
be to the
Heading
bridge,
south,
right,
right at the edge of the bridge.
right.
So
That's
we could
20 feet.
allow 2 parking spaces right there. No parking on the bridge.
Correct.
So, and then would we limit it? Is it possible to limit it to 30-minute loading?
Is
So
that
not
nes-
24-hour parking, because there again, you're blocking that alley if you're doing 24-hour parking there.
But don't they have parking 6 to 6 or 8 to 10 or whatever the hours are? I've seen them signs around.
And not only that, but the
You know, just so as when they're open, at least.
Right,
the majority
Right,
of
it
that
would be during the day.
clogging in that section is before school. And then there's traffic at night. I'm watching.
a lot
I
of
can
it's
see
on
over
the other
gym,
side
yeah.
too.
I mean, I'm watching and I don't, yeah, I guess my thought is your open business hours are, you're not open at 7 in the morning, correct? And you're not open till midnight or later, which is when a lot of that traffic comes up out of that alley. I mean, you're open just during that part of the business day.
So if you go from the edge of their garage
Mm-hmm.
and do 2 stalls, which is about 38 feet,
Yep,
that would put you right basically at our telephone pole.
Where?
yeah. I mean, you're
Where-
kind of
where
parked in
that
front of the garage
ends,
doors here,
Which
Jim.
is about our telephone pole, would be 2 spots.
The telephone pole.
Mhm.
What
Yeah,
telephone pole?
So telephone pole right by the
It's a
bridge,
utility
between the
pole that's right
between
there
the
that. it would
building and the
be-
bridge, the water part of the
It'd
bridge.
be easy for us to put a sign there that says no parking on the bridge from, between the signs.
Yeah, from this point.
So from that point on, it would be easy to do it that way. It would also give them 2 parking spots.
So the pole is,
It's that dark
how far
line,
from their building is the pole?
I would have to measure, but it's basically that dark line by that red,
Arrow,
fire hydrant type
Oh.
thing, right there. So where the green thing is where it would end,
You
estimated.
can see the
Right
pole
here.
shadow right there, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
So if you go to
this
your
is their
left-
this is their edge of their building,
Yeah, if
right?
you go down that pole, you see the shadow
so
of
it's
the pole.
about five or so feet, or maybe a little more.
see, it's still wide enough there too.
It starts shrinking.
If you had another parking spot, you're encroaching on the narrow part of the bridge.
Right,
Okay, so how far is the beginning of their building from the alleyway?
4 feet,
Is it, no,
right?
no, the law says you can't go 4
But
feet
they-
from the
they have a
alleyway.
garage
driveway.
is
They have a
24
driveway.
I'm going from the driveway, which is about halfway through their building, is about the
Okay.
driveway.
Oh,
So I would do 2 spots from the driveway, you would be able to fit it without it.
By the front door and then.
Right.
So where is it, if you go 2 spots from the edge of their building back, how close do you get to the alleyway?
It would be there. So, about 10 feet,
About
15 feet.
10, 15 feet?
Yeah. I mean, it's a bad estimate, but it, yeah.
More than 4.
Right, but they do have a double-sided garage there, so if you take it from, I measured it in person about a foot off of their garage, apron, and then measured 2 spots, it would put you right around that pole area.
From the left apron,
Yes, right apron.
south,
you-
the
well,
south
depend-
apron.
Salt apron, yeah, that's probably easier.
So if we were to do something like that, either or, would it be a restricted parking? Or is that what we're talking about? Hours or time limit or?
I mean, that's up to you guys on what you wanna do with it. Personally, I would say 30 minutes is very short, especially if you're in a retail shop. Just from personal experience at a retail shop, I mean, I think if you did 2 hours, that would be my suggestion, if you do it at all. But
Actually, the whole downtown has an ordinance. What is the ordinance for
2-hour
full
parking.
downtown is 2-hour parking?
From a certain time period.
So we
So
already
there's your
have
answer.
So there we could be consistent with downtown parking.
the whole,
Right.
and we wouldn't,
So
it
you
wouldn't
do
need to be
2-hour
referenced in
parking.
here. It's already an ordinance that there's, downtown has,
Yeah, it is posted.
mm-hmm.
To parking from what time to what
That is
time?
correct. Yeah.
Like posted from like 7 AM or 6 AM till whatever. It's, doesn't go into the nighttime. I really don't know off the top of my head.
But I know there's an ordinance that was, which limits it, I think, to 2 hours, and that's for everybody.
And again, encouraging collaboration with other downtown businesses, I think it would be best to leave it as it is.
So Nathan, can you explain one more time, like where, so what you're saying is there would not be parking on the bridge, or there would be some?
Up
No.
to that pole.
I
None,
mean, it would be at the,
to a
like,
pole.
To the,
Yeah, it'd
To
be
the
a
pole.
little, a tiny little bit, but.
the
I
pole
mean,
shadow starts here.
Right there, okay.
So it would be like here.
Yeah. It'd be a very.
Basically, a
nice
half a
little-
car would be onto the bridge area.
Which
half.
really where the road starts to narrow is where it becomes, I mean, I'm
Right.
watching here,
The
that's where
second
it
you start,
clogs.
so when I tried measuring the third one is when the road started narrowing to a very uncomfortable area, because you want at least 8 feet for parking spaces, and I believe county standards for road lanes are 11.5 is usually the lowest they want to do. But typically it's 12, so we want to have as much as, we want to have at least 20 feet in a lane. I believe at the end of that area, it starts to shrink down to less than 18.5 feet lane size, and that's when it gets a little tight.
We have like a perfect storm here, right? We've
It-
got narrow lanes, we've got a curve, we've got, the northbound has 2 lanes, one going left and straight and one turning right, which we can't get rid of. And then you've got, you know, that gas station on the corner with, I watched a guy, a fuel guy pull out, and he was literally blocking both lanes because it's too tight of a turn out of that spot. So
Yeah.
you've got kind of a perfect storm happening in this area right now.
And
And
around
the
school
downtown-
time, it seems like that.
Yeah, during
that
school
second
time. And there is a
right
downtown zoning code, that was created, so like the gas station, that's grandfathered. But if it would ever leave, that is something that, gas stations aren't part of that downtown zoning order. I mean, there's a whole bunch of safety concerns that were addressed, like, yeah, the gas station, that's scary.
Yeah, because that truck pulled out and he was literally basically blocking all the lanes until the light changed.
Yep.
Because it's a tight curve.
So this would essentially, what you're saying, Nathan, is if it went to, like, to where that pole is, so it's comfortably, how many stalls?
Two.
Comfortably 2,
Com-
if you start going towards the third, it starts getting a little tight towards the end.
So from that pole point, going north, to come within 4 feet short of the alley, am I correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Will allow 2 parking stalls. Is
And
that
we
correct?
We
And
would
ideally, you'd like to
probably
be as
paint
far from the
those
4
just like
feet
we
as
do the
possible.
Yeah,
downtown
make
ones.
it-
Right.
make the
So
gap
with
is-
that in mind, if that comes to pass, each stall,
But hang on, does that go in front of their garage doors?
No,
No.
because I'm taking the 2 spots from the edge of their garage, so that if they want to use their garage, they could. Granted, I know they're not using it for a car right
But it-
now, but
but
they
it could
still
be-
want to
can
have
be.
it open. And it would be after their garage apron is where the first one would start.
Okay,
Maybe 2 over
so
one.
I looked up the ordinance says, the 2-hour parking, from 7 AM to 6 PM except for Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays. I guess my thought is do we allow them? I mean, this is totally up to them, but
when the fire department wasn't there, we didn't allow them to park in front of the garage doors, but can they legally maybe use another stall in front of the garage door? And that, if we would leave that up to them, they can either put, I don't know, a cone out saying that because they don't want anybody to park in front of the doors, but that would give them maybe another parking spot in front of one of the garage doors. Because right now,
The
you're,
issue is they'd still have to stay away from the alley code 4
right,
feet.
4
So
feet.
then we're
Yeah,
fine.
but 4 feet's a legal requirement, but you can't see anything at 4. I mean, I park 8 feet away and you still can't see a
But
car
I'm
in the
saying
other
if we
lane.
give them one more parking spot in front of the doors.
Well, I'm
Yeah, but you
thinking,
can't see them.
Yeah, you think
basically,
it's-
we
That's
paint the
4.
spots so they know where to park.
Right.
People would know where to park,
Right.
just like downtown now. It makes it very clean, it makes it, everyone I've talked to loves the downtown painted spots. So we would do the same for them. We would paint the 2 spots. People would then realize, no, you don't park on the alley. You park in these 2 spots.
Unlike
So-
downtown, you could do the spots, and because there's only 2, you can park right up, and then you don't have to worry about getting parked in, because like downtown, if I pull my truck in downtown and I pull up to the line and I'm behind somebody, if somebody parks in behind me, I can't get out. So I typically don't park in the lines that are on the main street because my vehicle's too long, but if there's only 2 spots, you can park nice and tight, and still, the front person can just drive out and the person in the back can,
Sure. So that dotted red line, because that's where you were proposing to start, right?
Yeah, that's what
That's
we
where they
want.
were.
So from
No.
where it says 20, right below it, there's the red dotted line.
No.
And then you were talking about 4 possible stalls if you went from the 20 to 4 feet from the alley, correct?
Estimated, I mean, that's just from me hitting that, measuring.
Right.
It's about 75 feet, I think.
Okay.
yeah, that was one of their proposals, that's not what we're discussing.
You have it wrong, we went down the line.
Claire,
70
Please.
You misspoke. 75 feet is not that.
75 feet of no parking on the bridge is what I was mixed up. She's right. I apologize.
Explain, so that I can.
Sorry, the 75 feet was, so it's about 103 to the edge of their building. The 75 feet was the area of the actual bridge that was being proposed of the no parking area, I believe. When we measure from here to about the end here is about 75 feet.
From where to where?
From the red dotted line to the end of the,
To the bank part.
to the bank parking lot is about 75 feet.
Mhm.
That was the no parking. Sorry. So,
Okay, so then what's sitting here in that proposal in the ordinance says South Nash Street, west side of the street, starting at 188.5 feet from Main Street for a distance of 75 feet. So what you're saying is that's the 75 feet, because that's the no parking
Right.
area is what you're saying. Okay, to clarify, okay.
that was what the business owners are requesting.
Okay. So this would solve the no parking on bridge, but still give parking in front of the building.
It would
It
be
would not-
technically no bridge over water.
Yeah, it would not solve the bridge issue, it would solve the bridge over water.
water.
We up to that pole. I mean,
Well, yeah.
theirs would do no bridge over water. Our current one is, or that one we were just discussing is 2 stalls from pole to,
Because the bridge railing starts there because there's such a
it's a
drop
huge
off there. So it's really technically, it's considered part of the bridge, but it's not over, yeah.
Any other suggestions?
I would, as time goes on with reconstruction and everything, I think it would be real handy to just keep these other ideas that are in the packet, because I think there's some things we might want to consider, you know, going forward, depending on the traffic flow with crosswalks and different things, but I know that that's for another meeting. I just wanted to,
You realize that with the renovation downtown, there will be parking stalls that will be added. If you remember back to the layout that Carl had, because
well,
of
I
the
think-
parking.
Yeah,
the-
there's everything, I realize everything's in flux with that. I
Right.
think we have to deal with this now, but I think they have some good ideas thinking outside the box for going forward.
Right, and that is something we can look at in the future.
Right. The
Definitely.
concerns about the fishing pier and everything, I think those are all things we have to look at going forward.
Right. Do we have a motion at all tonight for this?
No, I would like to move to accept the revisions to the ordinance as submitted regarding parking on South Nash Street.
Okay, we should probably be more specific.
Right.
Do you want me to read them?
Um,
Do you want me to read them?
So what she's saying is the ones that were submitted by the business owners, which is in the
Parking.
packets.
In the,
So you wanna give all the way to the red line versus just to the pole? What we were talking about? Pat?
as you have in the submitted highlighted area.
What specific area are you talking about?
South Nash Street,
Well, I'm aware of that.
What she's saying is, what the business owners asked for, which would be the 75 feet for no parking would be right there,
The
or
red
a little
line.
longer, but,
Yeah, so then they extend all the way to the red line
right.
versus what we were just
That's what
talking about,
she's-
which is the pole.
Correct,
Which is
Pat?
the over the
Got it.
water bridge.
attachment A,
Right.
20, 21, and 22.
Which is what, that South Nash Street, west side of the street, starting at 188.5 feet from, so that 188.5 is,
It's from the intersection to that red dotted line about approximately.
So our current says nothing, no bridge. We just talked about going to the pole, and now
Yeah,
this,
there we go.
this says down to the red line. Is that what I'm understanding right now?
I think so. I think that's a correct understanding.
that's how I understand this, yes. And then the other revision I would recommend is in 20, is that where it says South Nash Street east side of the street instead of sides, because the original one said both.
I think that, yes, it's
That's
kind of
fine.
crossed out there, but you
Yeah.
can't see it. in
Maybe I
both
can't
places.
see it. Oh, it is crossed out, never mind.
I like
Yeah,
that.
Okay.
it's hard to see.
So the proposal that you put in the packet, is that your motion?
Correct.
I will second that.
Are we clarifying that there will only be two parking spots?
That's not what,
No.
that's
No.
not the proposal in the
No.
packet.
That's saying the 4 spots.
Pat's changing it from the
From
original
two
to the
to-
pole to the red line.
So there'll be more than 2 spots.
There'll be
Yes.
whatever it is to the red line.
Smart car, pickup truck, it depends on what kind of vehicles.
And are you proposing that we stick to the
2-hour
2-hour, or the, whatever?
The current village ordinance, no additional restrictions.
I guess I'm totally confused.
Okay, so what Shauna suggested and what Peter suggested is to go to right.
You don't get to go up, you have to go down. You have to go down on the screen. Can you bring?
Okay, so they suggest, so
The original.
the original suggestion here, well, the original suggestion from the business owner is we go to here,
No, to the
No.
red, to the red
Okay.
line.
to the red, so sorry, to here, sorry,
Right.
to here, okay? What Shauna and Peter suggested is that we go to here.
Pole.
The
There's a
pole.
pole right here. So you would get the nose of a car on the bridge. It wouldn't be bridge, it's a bridge. It's a bridge over the gap here. But the parking would extend back to somewhere back in here and not block theirs. That's the 2 spots. What Pat is suggesting is we go up to here, which is more along the lines of 4 spots.
Adding 2 more spots.
Or however many it is to get to the red line.
Which is
Probably
the
two.
start of the water.
I don't think I've ever seen 4 cars parked there. I mean,
I have.
well, maybe in the middle of a summer day when kids are fishing or people are fishing, yes. But when I think about like that evening where the traffic is, it's hard to see, or those mornings in school, like school mornings, I haven't seen for. Those peak times of the day, it's not a parking area, it's more of a flow.
Like I said, when I drove on it, the other vehicle was over the yellow line the entire way. When I went right down to 10 miles an hour, they were over the yellow line the entire length of the bridge.
And when I drive up to someone and I see that they've got their brake lights on, or I see that there's maybe something going on, usually you do give people that wider berth. I mean, it just is, I think it's the natural thing that people do, not knowing what's going on. If you've got your brake lights on and things.
No, I drove side by side with another vehicle, and I could reach out. I was 6 inches from touching our mirrors, and that vehicle was over the yellow line, the whole bridge.
And that probably happens on South Nash on weekend nights all
Well,
the
we
time,
have to
right?
address that separately.
I agree, but I'm just making a statement that it probably happens regularly on that stretch too.
Yeah, we brought that up at a previous meeting too.
In order to take a right into my driveway, I have to go into illegally go into cross the white line to pull in. Otherwise, you can't take a right into my driveway with the angle.
So is there a motion on the floor?
We could fight this forever.
There's a motion.
There's a
There's
motion
a
and a
motion to
second.
go back to the red line.
There's a motion and a second, so.
Who seconded it?
Who seconded it?
I did.
All right.
Roll call. Peter?
Aye.
Nay.
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 Aye.
Aye.
Motion is not carried. Is there another motion?
I would make a motion to do the, up to that pole, as previously mentioned. I don't know what the distance was, sorry Nathan. With the, following the same time ordinances as downtown. Understanding that this would probably have to be relooked at when we start looking at the other changes that have to happen with the downtown renovation.
Designating how many spaces?
I don't want to designate spaces, I want to
Okay.
designate however, I mean, because you could have a motorcycle in there, you could get more in there.
Okay.
We don't say spaces on any of the other.
Yeah, but I don't want to say spaces, I just want to say
Okay.
to the pole.
Just hold on 1 second, we're gonna see if we can get an approximate number for that.
What's that?
I wanna get an approximate number.
Since there's
Let's get a
distances on
distance.
everything else.
Okay.
It's about 40 feet or so apart. I mean,
I would do it, because they have it written, so Main Street is south, right?
right.
I would basically just change this number if you can.
Right.
So it's 18 feet per spot, is that what you're saying? So 36 foot,
I would agree that I think
36,
it
40
would be better
feet.
to do it by the number of available feet or prohibited feet rather than to give a number
Or
of
spots.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, so it takes
Because
about
you
18
guys
feet
might go
per
out there to
spot.
paint them and realize you can only fit 2 or 3 or whatever. I don't know what a
So
standard
36 to 40, somewhere in
The
there.
standard parking length is about 18 feet.
for parallel parking.
If you have, especially if you have two, yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, if we wanted the county's number, I believe someone in the audience might have that answer for
But
us.
I think for the motion to have approximately X number of feet to the post would be sufficient.
Is it to the post or from the?
Or from 4 feet from the,
I mean,
Right now it's going from an intersection, what they're
No.
proposing.
no,
No,
it's
it's
going
not
from the
going
pole.
from the-
No.
No.
So can we do it, say, from the post
Yeah.
to the, where the, there's curb there, right? To where the apron begins?
Yeah,
So
that's
from,
where the curve starts there.
yeah, so.
I
from-
mean, I can't see it from this and take a measurement. I mean, we could do 40 feet after the foot setback from their curb, from their apron.
Do we have to have a distance, or we can use the
I
two
think an
landmarks?
approximate is fine, if we can just have what you do.
Why are we doing it from the, just so I can understand, why would we do it from the apron versus just the 4 feet that's normally by the alley?
Because it gives them, it pushes it down a little more and gives them access to their garage door, I think they would want that potentially, is kind of was the idea, because otherwise you're gonna have a parking
know what
spot
number
where
I'm supposed to
someone's
say
gonna
from the
be
motion.
kind of partially in front of that garage entrance area.
I'm lost on the
So-
number I'm supposed to give.
So they
okay.
could,
And then-
potentially, if they wanted to, they could allow customers, if we ran it this way, they couldn't allow customers to park in front of their garage doors.
Correct.
Well, technically,
And typically, you wouldn't want your customers to park in front of your garage doors, but if you're running retail and you have retail in that garage area, that would be additional parking. Is what I'm trying to understand the difference between 4 feet and X amount of feet from their apron and.
I think it's easier for measuring a parking spot to go off of their apron, where you're not necessarily, otherwise if you wanna do 4 feet from the alley, it's gonna shrink down their potential parking in area. I think it also is, safety-wise, I think it's nicer to have a little more space between where the garage door is, because then you have a little more visible area.
A little more visibility coming out of the alley.
When you leave
which
the
is-
alleyway, if there's not necessarily.
I just need to understand, what the, why.
Right, and I don't know if they would want someone parking in front of their garage door, because they may need that area to do drop-off or something.
But here's where I'm turned around. Right now, your ordinance designates where you cannot park.
Right.
So I think that the motion needs to state it in those terms.
Okay.
We're amending
Which you cannot.
the area in
right.
which they cannot park.
Right, so right now it's saying 330 feet from Main Street.
Correct. So that number should
So
come
I have
down.
to, it should actually decrease by whatever the distance is.
Thank you, yeah.
But then you also have that, so you eventually have two, because you'd have the space
Right,
from
if
the
you-
alley.
well, that's 20
that
and
space,
21,
and then
right?
another space that,
That's 20 and 21, right? So South Nash,
South Nash, east.
east
well,
side of the street, so that's west, so we need the west side, so it's 21 and 22. South Nash Street, west side of the street, starting from Main Street for a distance of 85 feet. So
Which
85
goes
feet
to-
brings us to what, the corner?
85 feet brings
The
us
alley?
down to or 88.5 feet brings you to the red dotted line. From the.
So that number
Okay.
should actually decrease.
You're right, that number should decrease.
So what
if
does it
you
need
wanna
to
go-
be to give them in
so-
front of their
yeah,
building?
So that would be, yeah, way back there.
From the corner to their,
So
Where were they parking for the
minus
building?
about 34 feet off of the 188.5.
no,
No.
off of the 85. You're starting at South Nash
No.
Street,
Yeah, you should.
west
let-
side of the street,
can you
starting.
give them- Yeah,
So I need from this corner of the
from the corner of
street
the street.
to where they can
the-
start parking on the
Yeah,
north side of their building.
yeah.
No, it's where they can't park.
I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah, yeah, but we're
You're saying
we're
the
saying.
That's the starting
We're
point.
saying this, yeah.
Yeah.
I need the starting point, so what
Right.
is the distance from the corner to
Well,
the,
the corner to the red line is.
not the red line?
I know, but
Yeah.
just follow me, it's 188.5. The red line to where our area is, where you guys were discussing for them would be 34.2 feet. So you minus that from the 188, and then you have your distance from the intersection. Approximately 154 feet from the
Instead of 188.
intersection.
Right.
Yeah. For a distance of,
Mm.
so it's gonna be more than 75 feet, so I have to add that onto the end?
You add that onto the other one. So if it's for 75 feet, you add the 34.2.
So 109.
Right. For approximately is how I word it.
Yeah.
So
So
what
that-
about 21, does that change?
Which I would.
The 85? 85 isn't
I
changing,
think that's
correct?
including the garage and,
Yeah. It would be for 21 and 22 would be changed.
So that's 45 feet. yeah.
Instead of 85?
No, you're making the, so that's, if you go 109 and 154, that's.
I did
40
that.
That's 45 feet.
No,
in
the one on
21 shouldn't change, right? 'Cause it's
21
coming from
shouldn't
the
change.
corner.
That's
That's
to
the
the
starting
edge of
point.
the alleyway from the intersection.
Okay, so that's
Let me
85, so
double
it
check
stays
here.
there. So, and then that's the alleyway. That's 85 feet to the alleyway,
That's including the alleyway.
including the alleyway.
Include, yeah.
61.55
Right.
plus the alleyway.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about 85 feet.
So then 22.
So 21 doesn't have to change.
So 22, you would just subtract
It'd be 154 and 109,
Yeah.
188 minus
because you're moving it this way.
31.
That's what they're trying to figure out.
154,
We're trying to
31,
get it all straight,
31
yeah.
feet.
I think that's what we're trying to figure out.
So
So if you change it from 185 to 154, that's
And
31 and a half feet.
34 feet. 154,
Oh,
188.5.
188, sorry. 34, sorry.
And then 109.
My numbers are so bad, I couldn't.
But I don't think 20 needs to change, and I don't think
Approximately.
21 needs to change. So I'm gonna make a motion to only adjust 22 to be South Nash Street, west side of the street, starting at approximately 154 feet from Main Street for an approximate distance of 109 feet. Is that what you're looking for?
And then
No.
to accept 20 and 21 as proposed.
And to accept 20 and 21 as proposed, as they don't change, I don't think.
Is that right?
The
That
20
means they can't park from the corner to the alley, or through the alley, and it means that they can't park,
So
and we didn't make any changes to the other side, did we?
the other side
Said-
reverted back to what was there prior to us amending the ordinance originally.
So I have to amend 20 too?
No.
So you're gonna change 21 to 109?
21 is not changing at all.
Okay.
22 is changing to 154 for the first number, and 109 for the other. All it's
Oh, wow.
doing is moving the red line
Okay.
up, moving the other
Okay,
line
I
down.
got you. Okay,
It's measuring for both sides.
okay.
That's all it's doing.
Jean, do you have what you need from that?
I think so. I'll listen to the recording.
So no parking South Main Street, west of
There is no second.
west side,
Yes,
starting at
I'm having a
184 feet from Main Street.
We should also
over a
correct the
distance of
Table
109
in
feet.
22 or west
So
side
that's
is 2.
154. So.
Everyone got it? Everyone understand it? Is there a second?
So, I still.
Or are we still
I'm
working
still
on
It's
understanding?
going
trying to
from,
understand.
it's going from Nash Street, a distance of 154 is where it has to stop for another 109 feet till it meets the curve.
Okay, all right, so 109, but that's more distance of 109 feet.
109 adds the 40 whatever back,
So-
34 back up to
So
the-
there's, but no, I don't think that's right. So there's still, so you have the 84 feet from the curb, right, which is the alleyway,
We're measuring 154, which is from the curve, the corner,
to
to the
the,
pole. That's 154.
oh, that's 154.
Estimated, about
Yeah, that's the
approximately,
starting
because
point.
it depends on where
Starting
I
at the
start
pole,
with
which is
yeah.
approximately 154, going for, and following that for 109
Okay,
feet
yep.
until the beginning of the
To the
curve.
red line.
No, past the red line, to the curve. From the pole to the red line is 34 feet, right? That's what I'm understanding.
Okay, but doesn't that make it, so that makes it
It's the places you
parking?
cannot park
Yes,
is from
yes,
54 feet from the corner.
going back
That's where you can
another
start,
109,
where
yes,
where it can start not parking
yes,
for another 109 feet.
yes. That doesn't address the space from the end of the alleyway
That is already,
to the,
That's
to
correct.
the curb, to the,
that's
through the apron.
addressed in the other one with the 85 feet. So we're addressing it from the alleyway, which already has a 4-foot ordinance, to, we're saying that they can park from 4 feet off of the alleyway to the pole.
So then we're putting in 3 spots.
We're putting in whatever they,
Technically, yes, they can
whatever
park in front
space
of their
they want
garage
to
doors.
use.
I mean, that's other than the 4 feet in front of the alleyway.
I mean, I would hope that there'd be consideration for safety there, and hopefully people will park so that there's visibility, but that's what it is. We're providing parking, trying to minimize safety, or maximize safety, minimize the restriction on parking, addressing the bridge concerns,
Okay.
and the fact that there's a split lane starting to happen at that point.
154 feet is the pole.
154 feet from the curb is the pole, or from the corner is the pole.
That's
Corner is the pole.
From the
And
pole
then 85
to
feet is to the
End of-
other side of the alleyway.
the 85 feet is from the corner to the end of the alley.
so then you have 89.
Basically the corner of
so
their building,
Basically,
plus 4 feet.
plus 4 feet, so then you have 89 feet, so. It's 65 feet,
Yes.
so you wanna put 3 stalls in
We're not counting stalls, we're
Well,
counting the measures.
basically.
Yes.
there. Okay. I'm just
If
trying to
they
make sure
wanna
I
park
understand.
in front of
how
their
it is.
driveways, yes, that's 3 stalls.
You should second that motion.
I
Not
just
a-
wanna be very clear.
Will there be a
so we're doing-
sign hung then on the pole?
I think
guess
there
that
needs
was
to
the
be, and
other
I think
question,
there
was
should
the
be a sign on the pole.
Right, the sign would be, and then we probably could paint the bridge if we wanted to do paint as well. In the springtime, because it doesn't adhere in the
Oh,
winter.
Mill Street too,
Right,
yeah.
yeah,
But there was concerns of where the signs were too.
right,
So this, by doing it at the pole, it puts the sign at the pole.
right.
Okay.
Do you wanna have them marked spots or unmarked?
I would rather not.
Unmarked?
I would rather not.
Okay. I mean, I'm,
Do we also have to express 2-hour parking, like the rest of
The
downtown?
2-hour parking is already in your code, and I think
Okay.
however you want to enforce the no parking zones, wherever you put a sign, whether you paint spots or you don't, that's all an enforcement related decision. But as far as amending the ordinance is concerned, we really just need to get that zoned.
Measurements.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Agreed.
okay. Well, I mean, I'm okay with this. I do think that we'll probably end up coming, if we end up parking 4 feet from that alleyway, we'll probably come back and end up addressing this again. I think that's too, I mean, it's the legal requirement, but I think it's too close for safety in that alleyway.
I agree, but I think that's the solution for now.
Yeah, I agree. I think if we end up making that one way, 4 feet is perfectly fine. I mean, 1 foot is perfectly fine if it's, but not legally, but if we could ever find a way to make that one way, I think that would be a non-issue at that point.
I agree.
All right, I'll second.
Roll call. Here.
Abstain.
Aye.
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 Nay.
Can we abstain from that vote?
I can do what I want.
I guess we can. I don't know on what grounds he's abstaining.
I don't know, that just seems odd. I mean, as a compromise, I'll say yay.
Okay, passed.
So we've had, what?
5-1.
What did you say?
I said aye.
Okay,
I said nay.
okay. Then the motion is carried. We'll go to E, any other miscellaneous topics for future discussions?
I don't think we need to schedule a public safety meeting.
Okay,
There would have to be, like a March timeframe. I think we'd have the first availability of that.
okay. Nathan, can you send something out to see when in March we could have a public safety meeting?
Yeah,
to the
I'll probably
committee?
just have Chris try to set it up. Yeah,
Okay.
it's easier for me.
All right, anything else? Okay, we'll go to 10, report of village officials. A, clerk treasurer.
My report was in the packet.
Are there any questions for Jane? Nothing? Okay, we'll go to B, director of public works.
My report is in the packet. The biggest thing was just that I wanted to give credit to Sean and a gentleman's name that I forgot from the Rural Water Association, but they did a really good job doing some good detective work to find a leak in a lateral in Honeysuckle, and that was repaired last week.
Okay. Any questions for Aaron? Okay. We'll then move to C, police chief.
My report is also in the packet. One thing that I would like to let the board members know, we're working with the fire department and the EMS. We scheduled to have a guest speaker on February 13th from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. The topic is going to be the Trestle Trail shooting response for first responders. So we've invited all of the local fire, EMS, and police And then, the gentleman that is doing the presentation said that if the local leaders would like to come, that you are also invited. Basically, what they're gonna talk about is what happened that evening and how the fire departments, EMS, and police respond to an incident like this, and how you as community members would be, you know, how what you could take away from this and how this is gonna affect your community.
So February 13th at 5 p.m.
Yep, I'll send
Here?
out, yep, I'll send something out. I'll send you the flyer to each one of you, so.
Okay, perfect.
Is that gonna be recorded? I'm on vacation, so there's some of, I used to live right by the trail, and some of the stuff on that is, I'm kinda curious about.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear some of the meeting. I could probably fast forward through a lot of it, but
Sure.
if it's at all possible, I would.
He's gonna use the projector.
Oh, it's here?
Yeah.
So if it's possible, I'd be interested in seeing some of it, or.
And I think some of the fire department, because they have some type of
Yeah,
training.
hopefully we got a couple guys there.
So maybe they would be interested. Yeah,
I cannot.
we'll see what we can
Well,
do.
you can't put that either.
Yeah, officers class,
Yeah, so there's a couple, it would be beneficial for a couple of people, and anybody else in the fire or EMS that can, I guess.
yeah, our training chief should be there for sure, so.
Okay.
Any questions for Chris? Okay, we'll go to D, Library Director.
Not a whole lot. I am currently working on the 2022 annual report that gets submitted to the state every year. And that's a massively large project to work on. I just want to acknowledge how fantastic the staff has been. We are already prepping our summer programs, and we've never been able to prep out this far. So our staff is phenomenal and really hitting the ground running. Now that we're fully staffed, it really allows the staff to take that time to do it. And they're really focusing on local collaborations with area businesses and resources. So we're really focusing on doing more outreach this summer and doing things out in the community as opposed to just here in the building. So fantastic staff, really excited for this.
I have a question. Allie, do you have anything up in the library about the Amazon Friends of the Library stuff? I'm still
but
greater than, I'm more than 50% of all your donations.
As soon
Still.
as they announced that, I was
No,
like,
you're
oh,
not.
poor Jim, who's he gonna choose next?
What's that?
Well, you know, because
you
Amazon
can't
has
choose
dropped a bunch of,
They're
Yeah.
dropping
of,
it.
It still shows up on mine.
yeah, but there's a bunch that
For
are being
now.
dropped because they can't support them. So there's so many people that are getting that they can't support it financially.
Because they don't have any
They
money.
can't make a very big impact on it.
Okay.
The
So-
entirety of the Amazon Smile will be going away. I believe it's mid-February or March.
Okay.
So right now, your purchases still count, so make as many as you can.
Yeah, buy now.
Buy all of your stuff for your business right now,
Okay.
and then when it's gone, it's gone.
It's
Okay.
going away from Bethlehem.
Yeah.
Well, that's
It really
sad,
is a
right?
bummer, because the
Yeah.
Friends actually gets a significant amount from that. So it's a bummer, but we will fundraise in other ways, so
Well, that's really sad.
it is. Yeah.
Any other questions for Ally? Okay, we'll go to E, Attorney.
I don't have anything for you. I'm happy to answer questions if you have them.
Any questions?
I
No?
do have a question. Is anyone in your firm up on elder law at all?
We solely municipal.
Okay.
I would
If
have
you,
good
if you know
referrals
of
for you,
anyone, can you let me know if you know? Okay, thank you.
I'll
It's
send
for
you an
us-
email.
It's for our senior group planning.
I would maybe want some more information before I can make a referral,
Okay.
so I'll email you
Okay,
tomorrow.
sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to F, Administrator.
One of the houses that we purchased and then raised and sold and with a contract for rebuild was granted occupancy and was actually sold this week on 231 Lakeview Ave. So we should be able to get a 90% estimation on the assessed value this year based on the first of the year. So, was kind of completed, so that's good. It looks actually pretty nice in that area. The other thing was, we'll be posting a position pretty soon here for a public works employee who's planning on retiring in April. So we're gonna start the process probably pretty soon to try to replace him. Other than that, we're signed up for, Aaron, myself, and Colton are actually gonna be attending a emergency response training, based on this area. So it's based out of Greenville, but it's a mutual aid response on, I think, hazardous spills, tabletop exercise that we're gonna be attending. And I think actually Chris and some other officers are gonna go maybe, and I believe Jack is actually
I
gonna
bet.
go as well, so.
Any questions for Nathan? Okay, we'll go to G, building permit report. It is in the packet. 11, communications and miscellaneous business. A, Black Otter Lake District News. Pat?
We met on January 25th, have established a debit card and a charge card for our bank accounts, charge card for gas. The high school tech ed class is going to submit some ideas for logos and slogans for the Black Otter Lake District, so we thought that'd be a good way to involve them. One of the teachers is spearheading it, so we're looking forward to seeing that. For our Healthy Lakes and Rivers grant proposal, it's if we write the grant, there's probably potentially at least 5 residents interested, plus our park areas. So we're going to be looking into that grant further. The application is due in September. We approved an aquatic plan to be done by Lake and Pond. They're going to also do an additional fish survey and water quality count, but the aquatic plan, management plan is to be done every 5 years, and so we're due to have that done again. We discussed fish, stocking fish, yellow perch and largemouth bass, so we're getting quotes on that. We approved paying half of Sean's registration at the Watershed Conference. The village is paying the other half of Watershed, is that right? Watershed Conference?
Yep.
Okay. And we approved that we will work with the Fox Wolf Water Alliance again for lake cleanup, which is scheduled May 6th. No discussion about a harvester. I just had to add that.
What are they looking at for stocking, for fish?
Pardon me?
You said the type of fish, but,
Yellow perch and
Yeah.
largemouth.
but how much are they looking at? Are they looking at like mature or just little?
Yeah,
fish?
2 to 4 inch.
Okay. Did they discuss how much, I mean, what, like volume, quantities?
Yeah, it's
however you
so
want it?
many per acre,
Okay.
you know, and I brought it with, I can show it to you if you want it.
I'm just curious.
It's not
because,
cheap.
Yeah.
Um,
And
Crappies are a waste of time, they said, because they die off very quickly, from what I heard. But yeah, it's so many per acre, and they're a certain length. I'll look for it. and
Pat,
show
can you get records from past stocking experience?
I'm sure.
I recall, and maybe Jack remembers too, 20, 25 years ago where they tried to perch. Remember that?
Yeah.
And they all got consumed by
yeah, there's
the large bass.
The pike.
There's northern, quite a bit of northern.
Yeah, in northern.
Surprisingly, there's a lot of northern.
So I'm surprised they want to do it again.
I think they thought it would be a good thing. The people that,
Good for the bass.
that,
In northern.
I have the prices here though. I'll look for the amount that they're proposing if you wanna see that.
Yeah, and then Sean was gonna bring more to the next meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
He's gotten 2 proposals, so, he's going to bring those.
Yeah. So then you'll know a little more. So when is the next meeting?
March, either the 22nd or 29th.
Okay. Any other questions for Pat? Okay, we'll go to B, Hortonville, Hortonia Fire District News.
Nina.
Nothing?
No, nothing.
Okay. C, Gold Cross Ambulance Run Reports and News. There is none in the packet. D, Hortonville Civic Association.
Nothing.
And E, Senior Activities Committee.
That's me. We met last Thursday. Jim Garone from the food pantry will be speaking at our potluck this coming Monday. We are going to be hosting the advanced planning class in Hortonville this fall, which is what I'm trying to find someone to assist with the elder law. They cover resources. It's basically planning for the end of our lives, you know, for legal, financial, funeral planning, health planning, that kind of thing. March 20th, we're going to have dessert and a movie in cooperation with the library. We have offered our assistance with the Easter egg hunt to prep for that. We're still looking for indoor pickleball area. I've contacted the school just to see if there's any space available, but it's pretty limited. We sent out letters to businesses regarding sponsorship for our Senior Autumn Fest in October. And we do have a staff member from Care Partners up here that is attending our meetings now, so that was a good addition.
I thought that the Lutheran school now opened that up to the public for pickleball.
I think there's a few people playing right now, but we haven't had the official word that it's okay for anybody to come in.
Okay,
So-
I thought they posted it on Facebook.
Oh,
I'll
did
have to
they?
double
I
check.
thought they did as well, but
Okay.
Yeah.
it's Tuesday night, or Tuesday nights?
I know there's a few people playing on a
Yeah,
given
it was
night.
posted that all are welcome now, I thought.
Okay,
I'll
great.
double check for
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for Pat? Okay, we'll go to 12, comments and suggestions from citizens present.
Well, I introduced myself a little bit before, but now you're up here. My name's Charles Collier. I've been a small town reporter over in Denmark, Wisconsin, and Brown County for 7 years. I didn't already say that. Things are a little strange over there, so I'm just kind of bouncing around, dipping my toes in places and seeing if there's any other interesting places to cover. I grew up in Clintonville, graduated there in 2010. My parents, everybody's over there, so I have some roots here in the community, but I'm not incredibly familiar. So I just want to introduce myself, say hello, so you all know my mug. Maybe you'll hear from me, maybe you won't. We'll see. Okay, just want to let you know I'm here. Thank you for letting me do it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'll be very brief. Thanks for all the time you put on making this change. It wasn't quite what we were hoping for, but I guess it's a compromise. I just wanted to share that when we prepared what we were asking for, I did feel it would have been very much safer to not have any cars in front of the garage doors because that would give more alley clearance for visibility, which Jim referred to quite significantly. And that's why we pushed everything down closer to the bridge to keep that space in front of the garage near the alley open. That was why I proposed and presented it to Nathan the way I did. So that was where I was coming from.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At some point, I'd like someone to address the whole foundation of the way these anonymous complaints are used to do things like this, because it's really disappointing to have something like this happen and really have nothing to point to as to why. So hopefully in a future meeting, we'll find out how that will be handled better.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll go to 13. I would need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're now adjourned.